Hi there. Welcome to another edition of Ask the Expert on Contingent Workforce Strategies LinkedIn group. I'm Jeff Nugent, and I'm here with my good friend, Terri Gallagher from Gallagher and Consultants. Welcome, Terri.
Thank you. That was quite an intro. I feel so loved on this Valentine's.
I've known Terri for many, many years. Actually, I met Terri through the LinkedIn group way back when it was founded in 2009, 2010 timeframe. So I've watched Terri's career develop and grow and move towards self-employment and growing one of the preeminent consulting houses in our industry today. So welcome, Terri.
Thank you. I feel welcome, Jeff. I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about because, as you know, we both have a lot of passion around this topic. So
for sure,
I'll do my best to keep it to 20 minutes.
And with the tech layoffs happening these days, you know, as you hear all the subject lines, it's really actually, once again, similar to what the pandemic has happened, the economic situation and the layoffs are happening, it's driving a trend. And a lot of the best and the brightest, not only in the tech world, but all professional worlds working remotely, are really being driven to the gig work platforms and the online staffing platforms that are helping them enable work. And, you know, what's been interesting, of course, we've all heard the news of the layoffs. There's over 150,000 people in the tech sector laid off worldwide. 18,000 people alone at Amazon, even though they had said it's mainly professional positions and HR-driven roles. One of the other stats in researching this topic, Terri, it's been pretty fascinating, is 40 to 45% of all workers today state they're either working on a gig platform or performing a side hustle while working their full-time jobs or moving towards turning that side hustle into a full-time gig works. I know this is a topic that you've been right in the middle of and watching and consulting and helping companies move towards this revolution that's happening in the workplace.
Love that. My God, I feel like a warrior. That's awesome.
What's your thoughts on some of the topic, but also what the trends you're seeing and in this topic?
Well, I think you hit a lot of it, right? There's definitely a shift happening, and it's being driven by the people, right? The people have spoken. So when I started Gallagher 7 years ago, I saw a lot of changes happening, and I saw that technology is going to be the enabler of talent, and that we're going to really move to how do we enable multiple forms of talent supply and deliver those to customers compliantly, and kind of moving away from some of these more static models. And so that's what we build. We build services and solutions to do that. Now, the first 4 or 5 years I created the company, I thought, oh my God, I made the biggest mistake of my life, because nobody was listening to what we were saying. And now it's kind of all come together. That is where we are. So when you look at the tech layoffs and these amazing talented people, it's like dating, you know, when they say, oh, you know, it's not you, it's me, right? Well, in dating, it's always you. But with the companies, when you're laid off, it really is them, right? It has nothing to do with how skilled you are, your experience. So these knowledge workers that are being laid off from all of these different companies are tremendously successful. They have great skill sets. So there's a power in having a marketable skill set. So they're saying, okay, how do we kind of continue to make an income, and how do we continue to participate? And they're getting their power back. And they're the ones that are saying, okay, I have a marketable skill. If this company laid me off, what do I do with it? You know, where do I go? And so this participation in this ecosystem of independent consultants, where it's pure, if you have a strong skill set and you have someone that wants you, that's it. That's the market. There's no like, oh, the stock, you know, the stock share's down, so you got to go. It's like the purest form of commerce for working. So you've got these amazing, talented people who are saying, you know, this is a way that we want to work. And they're jumping onto these gig workforce platforms. And like you said, they're like, wait, there's a lot of flexibility. I can kind of make more money. I can never be laid off, right? That was one of the the reasons I created Gallagher. I was fired. Like, that's how I created this company.
Yeah.
They're like, you need to go paint on your own canvas. I was like, you're kind of right. And so that's what I did. So you're 100% right. I think,
Well, what is making this really interesting is the pandemic and the shift
right.
to the proven model of remote work. And
Mhm.
so in the past, you would be geographically limited in your job search, typically, right?
Mhm.
With the traditional employment model. Now, a lot of these hyper talented people jump on a gig platform and they're doing work for somebody in Belgium or Germany
Exactly.
or in Idaho when they're in New York. And so, or in San Francisco. So, you know, all the great technology workers that are getting laid off in San Francisco now, they're sitting on expensive real estate doing work for somebody in Kansas City right now. But all jokes aside, your client base is turned into a global client base. So, and the talent pools are global. So
Mhm.
it's created a very different dynamic with the idea of the remote work, right? For these workers. And it's eye-opening.
Well, and I think, like you said, the gig workforce platforms and what you're doing, right, you're the connector, you're the enabler to bring these workers together to the companies and the people that need their outputs. And so, just like I predicted 7 years ago, technology is now being the delivery system, it's being the enabler. And then all of this stuff about, you know, I could go on forever on this, the fear mongering. Oh, there was a $500,000 lawsuit because this person, this company was found non-compliant. It's a $4 trillion business. Like, who cares, right? The bottom line is the people have spoken. This way works for corporate. It works for the people that want to do it. So companies like yourself and other, I can't mention, I'm not supposed to mention names, but other companies that are stepping up and providing fractional benefits and fractional insurance. We use it. Like, when we have a client that has crazy insurance requirements, we just go to our care and like, we need X. So the shift has happened, and the 200-year-old employment construct that we've all been fear mongering around, and the lobbyists around, creating these protections for people, that construct is over. You've got tattoo artists and you've got yoga instructors in California. They don't want protection. They don't want that income stream to go away because that's what's going to happen. So, I think there's been a massive shift. And I do think the gig workforce platforms are kind of at the forefront, as are the payrolling companies, the EOR companies, the fractional benefit companies. That whole ecosystem are leading the charge.
Yeah, it's interesting. People have asked me, what is the difference this time around
That's a
with
good point.
the economic cycles and the political winds, let's call it, from an administration in America, than it was a few years ago. Well, it's more than a few years ago, when it was an economic downturn and a similar kind of political structure and movement towards more employee traditional employment model. And there's a lot of education, and workers are choosing to work in a self-employed, more flexible workforce.
I mean, I agree completely. We work with the biggest and brightest because we're a smaller company. So we have to do everything 10 times better than everyone else. We've got to put the biggest and brightest onto these projects. And that's the way that they want to work. Now, if you look at all of the stats, there's a lot of stats around 82% of 62% of the recent waves of layoffs have made them feel less secure committing to one employer. The whole thing about more control and flexibility, that's been ongoing. 74% said the recent wave of layoffs have made freelance work more attractive. But I want to kind of go left to center a little bit. There are people that are not comfortable. There are people that have been laid off from, Facebook and Google, and are terrified. And they don't know how to do this. And there is a lot of up and down, and there is a lot of uncertainty. So I think we need to be empathetic to the fact that it's not for every skill set, right? For you and I, yeah, we love it. But my point is that when you have a skill set that is marketable, that's powerful. Whether you want to go and work as a freelancer, whether you want to go into a gig workforce platform, whether you want to jump to another tech company, they can't take that away from you. And the fact that the gig workforce platforms are expanding and there's all these opportunities are just giving people another way to work and leverage their superpower. So for anyone out there, if you're listening, if you have been laid off or let go, it's not you, it is them. and you can't take it personally, and you have to understand you have a very powerful skill set, and maybe you need to deploy it in another way that you can monetize.
Yeah, and for those that, not only those that have been laid off, but those that are still working and are part of the 45% of workers doing a side hustle, right?
Yep.
These side hustles will help you get a taste for entrepreneurialism. There's an increase of legislation around the world looking at this form of this change in the way people are working, and looking to I don't want to say totally cash in on it, but to catch up with it, because the traditional construct of taxation and where governments got their revenues were from employment income, right? And when you change it to self-employed and a business-to-business relationship,
right, they want their money.
It's through an invoice. And
Right.
so we're seeing articles and we're seeing new legislation arising around the world looking at this. How can a company keep up with it, and what should they be doing in terms of thinking about this, as opposed to just waving a magic wand and cutting themselves off of very large and talented talent pools, right?
Or putting everyone through a payrolling company, and a lot of the workers, mine and ours included, don't want to work that way. Well, I think you have to look at the levers, right, of how like risk and compliance is evaluated. And there are ways to do that. It's finite. It's not a secret, right? If you take the time to look at how these ICs are structured, you look at insurance and you look at how their LLC is set up, and all this, right? How are they going to be engaged? There's certain things that you can look at and then put together an assessment of risk or non-risk. There's lots of companies popping up to do that. But again, it's about enablement, right? And kind of working with, leaning into the regulatory bodies, even though they can't make up their mind either, because the 10-factor list went away, then it was like the 3-factor test. They don't know what to do, in Washington, but lean into that and come up with ways that you can accommodate it and be able to evaluate this workforce, and then bring them in. This is a hugely talented workforce, that this is the way that they want to work, and it's growing bigger and bigger and bigger. We're shifting more to leveraging, we're moving away from full employee companies. Employees are going to be the minority in 5 to 10 years. There's so many stats around that. So this is here, right? This isn't a tsunami that's coming, it's here. And so we really need to think about, how do we engage this workforce and bring them in and still make companies comfortable, right? There's a lot of companies out there that make a living making big companies uncomfortable, right? That's their shtick. They've been playing it for 25 years, the kind of the fear play. But I think that's over now. We really need to think about, how do we bring this workforce in? And you're doing it, you guys are doing it. There's other, even payrolling companies, they have ways to evaluate this workforce. But that's what we need to shift to.
So it's a fascinating, I think there's going to be a part 2 to this story, Terri. And
thank you for inviting me. Could talk about all day, as you know.
Appreciative of your time, and thank you so much for starting the topic. But I know it's not the last time we will be speaking on this topic. So thanks very much again. Any last final words?
No, thank you for having me. If any of you want to talk about this, be happy to chat. I could chat about it all day. But thank you for giving me the mic and letting us use your marketing team. I appreciate it.
Have a great day, Terri. Thanks.